Hello and welcome everyone to our pre-event webinar under the banner of the second World Cold Chain Expo, which will take place on 10th and 11th September 2025 at the iconic festival arena in Dubai. We are very excited to be there. Today's session is titled Reimagining Cold Chain for FMCG, for Pharma and Perishables, while we'll also incorporate the demands of quick commerce, and that is exactly what we're here to explore. I'm Tanya Verma from Tab Group, your webinar facilitator for today. And joining me is a power-packed panel of experts from logistics, manufacturing, and air freight, each playing a very crucial role in transforming how goods move, they stay fresh, and how they stay compliant in this high-speed landscape. First up, we have Huma Khan, who's business development specialist at Clymet. Hi, Huma. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and Huma, we are so happy you're also one of our proud sponsors for the second World Cold Chain Expo, and I'm sure you're excited to be in Dubai.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
That's great. So next, representing the air freight side of the cold chain, we are thrilled to have Issa Mahshi, who's Global Air Logistics in the Perishables Development Manager at Kuehne+Nagel. Hi, Issa, let me know your thoughts about the webinar. Are you excited? What are your feelings?
Thank you for having me. Yes, excited, and I'm looking forward to the discussions. I'm going to use the word fruitful here because it's the nature we're talking about here.
That is great. So next up, I want to welcome Joachim Yebouet, and for the rest of the discussion, we'll just call him Joe for everybody's convenience. He is board member at the UAE Food and Beverage Manufacturers Group. Joe has a front row seat to the innovation happening in FMCG logistics and the role of strategic partnerships in this transformation. Hi, Joe. Give me your quick thoughts.
Hi. Sorry, yeah. I'm so excited to speaking and joining the other colleagues for this event, and I will try as much as possible to provide what information we have and how we can assist coordinating from the UAE Food and Beverage Association.
Absolutely, and I'm grateful to have you on the board. So finally, joining us with deep expertise in end-to-end fulfillment strategies, we have Dennis, who is contract logistics specialist at September 9 Logistics. Welcome to the webinar, Dennis, and I'm really excited to have you.
Thank you, Tanya, and happy to be on the panelists and to meet everybody. So let's look forward to a fruitful discussion indeed, Joe.
Indeed, we must have a fruitful conversation, and this will eventually be live on the channel where we have a lot of relevant stakeholders from the cold chain industry, those who would really want to reach out to experts like yourself and would want to be discussing business opportunities and what kind of collaborations can be done in the future. So without a further ado, I think let's dive right into the discussion for today. Huma, starting off with you, we know that pharma logistics demands not just temperature control, but also coordination. How is Clymet redesigning its cold chain operations, such as hub placement, routine strategies, or packaging solutions to, meet the shrinking delivery windows demanded by today's quick commerce landscape?
First of all, thank you so much, Tanya, for this opportunity. I'm happy to be the part of this important conversation. So let me introduce myself first. I am Huma Khan and I represent Clymet Logistics, where I involved in business development and commercial side. I'm from a pharma background. From last couple of years, my focus is only in pharmaceutical and temperature sensitive cargo. So let me give you a quick picture of who we are. Clymet was created with clear vision, where we are into the business of clearance and delivery. We bring professionalism into temperature control logistic, especially for the pharmaceutical, medical devices, and life science sector. So I don't know many people knows this, but the Clymet promoter, Mr. Thomas Paul, has started this company with his experience with DHL. He took the super experienced people from the industry who handle the pharma shipments, who is specialized to handle the pharma shipments. So what we did is that we invested new truck with all the validation quality like GDP, ISO, all that things. So 3 years back when we started Clymet, we were only 3 trucks. Now we have 18 truck, and I'm very happy to inform you that in couple of few months we will increase our 30% fleet.
That is great. I think that's really interesting to know, Huma, and it's also impressive. So even
Yeah,
I strongly believe that, precision network design really is the foundation of speed in today's time.
yeah. We are proud to be the only logistic company in UAE that provide 100% pharmaceutical service. For us, this is not just a business, it's a responsibility that we take seriously because everyone knows that pharma is not like other cargo. It's high value, high risk, and sometimes life savings. But today, in this fast moving world of quick commerce, even pharma needs to move faster without any compromising quality and compliance. So when we say we are specialized in pharma logistic, it's not just a tagline, we prove it.
Great. Yeah, I think that's completely justifiable, Huma. And with your answer, I can also, set the stage perfectly for the air freight perspective of our discussion. So, Isa, building on Huma's network insights, with quick commerce shrinking delivery windows to hours or even minutes in today's world, how is the air freight segment, particularly in the cold chain infrastructure within it, evolving to maintain temperature integrity during ultra fast last mile movement of perishables like fresh produce, dairy, or seafood?
First off, again, thank you for having me. I've been with Kuehne+Nagel now for 17 years, all in the perishable world. I lived in the UAE as well as North America, always in perishables. So I've seen the trends and the changes throughout the air freight industry as a whole. And I'm very excited to be back in Dubai as of recent, looking out from the corporate team for the Middle East. To answer your question now, today's consumers, I mean, the expectations have changed. They don't just want fast delivery. They expect that also for the perishables. So they're used to, started off with the Amazons of the world, and now it's trickled down to so many other components, including fresh produce and dairy and proteins and seafood, etc. And they expect that to be done quickly, safely, and year round. So that has put pressure on the air freight world, because air freight is actually one component of the full supply chain. It brings two countries closer together, and it also extends shelf life. And every degree and every minute changes how the end user receives their product. So that's number one. We're also seeing in this part of the world, in this region, in the Middle East, very strong investments in the destination countries like UAE and Saudi Arabia and Qatar, in how they are handling cold chain. So, for example, modern terminals, cool dollies, faster customs processing, faster retrieval from aircraft to ground handler cold stores, and that's very well and done well here. And the challenge we're facing is origin countries have not evolved as fast, so they're lagging behind in that sense. So it's not a full complete chain in the seamless same standards that we're seeing in this part of the world. And the main point about that is that often the cold chain is most vulnerable before the product even gets on the flights. And so if it's broken up front, then it's broken throughout. And how things are evolving, I mean, we've seen creative things happening all over the world. And I'm going to give a few examples to showcase those. Like I mentioned, I lived in North America, and we were normally perishables around the world fly mostly on commercial or passenger flights. That was not good enough for certain markets where the demand was extremely high. So, for example, China would send e-commerce filled airplane or charters into North America and fully paid for by e-commerce. And then they return, they use the same planes basically to return with, let's say, Canadian lobsters or American lobsters or seafood. And so it's a round trip, smart use of capacity. And one way is e-commerce, the other way is perishables. And so it works out for their market, and it works out for the North American market as well. In fact, they've done that in certain cases better than how the seafood exporters themselves are able to to use the commercial capacity in getting the product from point A to point B quicker, and also they've done it in a cheaper, or let's say more feasible way. That's one good example. Here, closer to home, we've seen fresh, examples like Fresh Fruits Company partnering with Noon, Carrefour with Deliveroo and Talabat, and we've seen Lulu with Amazon. One interesting one I saw recently was the fresh flowers in ready bouquets in hotel lobbies in a vending machine. So that's extremely fast and difficult. When you look at it up front, you're like, oh, that's a cool concept. But the logistics that goes behind it, puts pressure on countries like Kenya, where they're producing flowers, and they need to deliver fresh flowers constantly, daily, in larger capacity, to make sure that vending machine is well equipped and fresh, of course. And of course, all of this that I mentioned relies on tight cold chain performance and not just on speed. While there's to conclude here, I mean, we also use passive packaging in many cases, and that plays a big role, and it allows basically stable temperature control, but without the need of the more expensive powered containers like Envirotainers, etc., which aren't usually feasible for perishables. Pharma, yes, not so much so for perishables. And what the cold chain needs to do is to evolve on a global scale, not on just a locally here. So basically, whatever you're shipping, whether it's lobsters or cherries or berries, when a customer goes into an app and says, "I need this within an hour," there's no room for weak links over here.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you shared some really good case and examples for us to better understand the kind of evolution that is happening in this industry. And personally, for me, I think I can only imagine the impactful evolution of air freight with a fantastic view from 35,000 feet. So quite literally, we're discussing a whole mapping of the process. And this leads me to being curious about how manufacturers plug into that high velocity ecosystem. So, Joe, what emerging technologies or innovations do you see having the most potential to enhance the efficiency of cold chain logistics for quick commerce in FMCG and perishables? Are there any specific tools or are there any platforms that you're particularly excited about being a part of the industry?
Thank you, Tanya, for giving me this opportunity to intervene here. I think my colleagues Issa and Huma has already said a lot about the principles, which is critical to understand, first of all, before diving into the requirements. At the Food and Beverage Association, we are a kind of linkage between the different components. First of all, the consumer, then the manufacturer, then the logistic companies, then the government, then the retail. So we try to put in place the forum for all the partners to collaborate effectively and efficiently, such as at the end of the day, for the benefit of all the stakeholders involved into this process. So fundamentally, one needs to understand, before identifying, let's say, the technologies, what do we speak about? Like Issa was saying just now, the cold chain itself, what is it about? In simple terms, in very simple terms, it is a temperature control supply chain. Let's call it like that. At the end of the day, to ensure that product will reach the point of will reach the consumer in a safe condition. Now, this involves so many practices and tools and the different specificities. So yes, trying to identify what technologies can be involved in this. Today, it has gone fast since the COVID time, where the e-commerce took over the world. Let's say you start by the simple telephone, the smartphone, the 5G connectivities that allow to transfer data, to capture information. Then you move into more sophisticated internet technologies and smart sensors to capture the information of the product itself. Then you move to, without making it too complicated, blockchain for transparency and the traceability. Blockchain, in simple word, again, being a data bank of information from the source of origin of the product to the availability on shelf in the retail stores for the consumer to come in and to have the to have confidence in what he or she is buying at that point to ensure. So this is where collecting the data and then storing it, and then making it available, even by showing it visibility at the point of shelf, is so critical for the consumer. So yes, you have the internet technologies, smart sensors, blockchains. In terms of physical deliveries, again, today, technology has evolved. We have the drones to move fast, like Issa was saying, sending the goods from one point to the other one. We used to bring chicken from Brazil to the UAE. Not we used to, it is still the case. And when you say Brazil, it doesn't come from the port. It comes from the deep forest of Amazonia, from a slaughterhouse up to the port. Then and to come to the port, it is in trucks, refrigerated trucks. Then from the port, stay the port before being shipped to a UAE port. If you like, if not, it needs to be transshipped somewhere. And during transshipment, you need to again have a traceability of the storage conditions. So yes, today there is different technology that allows you to go faster than this. There is a robotic that come into warehousing and storage condition to ensure that manipulation and handling can be done also as fast as possible and as close as possible to the requirements. And all these, importantly also, bring the sustainable elements into the refrigeration in this new world of safety of a product. So yes, our role now, once we identify all these different technologies, is to create the platform for collaboration. I can come back on that later on when we speak in the second round.
Right.
The platform for collaboration to bring together different actors in the ecosystem.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you
Okay.
for sharing that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Joe. And I think your perspective from within the African as well as the correlation with the UAE region has been valuable. And even I believe that also tech clearly thrives on partnership, which leads us to replenishment inside multi-temp networks, making me come to you, Dennis. You have had years of experience now. Help us understand that given the rising expectations of quick commerce in FMCG, perishables, or pharma, how can replenishment strategies be re-engineered to balance availability, shelf life, especially when working with multiple temperature zones in a cold chain network?
Well, thanks, Tanya, for the question. And I'm happy to see that the previous speakers didn't just focus on the last mile solutions, because it's tempting to say in e-commerce and in quick commerce, especially, to focus on the last mile because that's where the user interface is. But I think it's super important to focus at the full value chain, because if the cold chain is broken on the first mile, it immediately impacts product quality and shelf life. And especially for perishables, the shelf life is super valuable. So maintaining a proper cold chain throughout the entire supply chain from origin to delivery is super important, so that you have the product, the best quality of the product, and when you reach the final mile, you have the longest shelf life left, right? And then if you look at the last mile, especially in the quick commerce, you would look at small stocking points close to the consumer markets where the space would be expensive, it would be very limited, and you have the limited shelf life, especially if you look at perishables. So you should balance, let's say, the wastage and out of stock, so two parameters. And by having a perfect replenishment strategy, you would limit the wastage of the products and prevent out of stocks. And then if you look at the traditional replenishment strategies, I don't believe they suffice. And that's where you see now the successful companies and models that they leverage the Internet of Things and even artificial intelligence tools to first look at the live consumption data. And then also not just, how do you say that? Not just the reaction on it, but even a predictive analyze, so that you go from reactive to proactive to even predictive replenishment models, all to prevent this wastage and out of stocks.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Dennis. And I think those were some really important insights that we needed to understand from you. And my addition to this would definitely be that there is a seamless inventory turns our music to any retailer's ears. So having said that, let's dive deeper into tech-driven integrity. Driving the conversation back to you, Huma, cold chain logistics for pharma is all about being meticulous, as I also previously mentioned. One slip can compromise the entire shipment. Every one of you have, hinted an idea upon this concept. So, how is Clymet leveraging tech-driven solutions like real-time temperature monitoring, etc., to ensure compliance, speed, and stability in the last mile pharma deliveries?
Thank you, Tanya. Yes, you are right. We handle some of the most sensitive and high value product. Careful is the heart of what we do. Means careful planning. So we plan every route carefully based on traffic, deliveries, and temperature zone. Every shipment is treated like mission, not just a movement. We also offer packaging solution, thermal blanket, data logger, and temperature mapping. So all of our drivers are GDP trained with defensive driving training. We also make sure that we train them in every 3 months. So they are aware of what they wants to do with the shipments. All of our vehicles are temperature mapped. Each shipments include data logger to track the route in transit.
Yeah, great. So, building on that, Issa, from your vantage point, Kuehne+Nagel is at the forefront of global logistics today. And in your experience, what are some of the biggest operational or infrastructural challenges in scaling air freight solutions for perishables, and how do you think technology help overcome them in the context of quick commerce deliveries, or maybe the whole value chain, as Dennis mentioned, from the first to the last mile?
Um, so one of the biggest challenges we face today is something I mentioned already regarding the consumer expectations and how they've been reshaped with e-commerce, right? So people used to get things delivered in a day, and now they expect that's the same thing for their perishable items or their grocery. And one thing to mention is that the moving a chilled shipment is not the same as moving, delivering a phone charger or a parcel in itself, a dry parcel. So the sensitivity, the timing, and the risk involved is on a completely different level. And we of course have but from the outside, it looks like it's just a fast delivery for whatever the product is. So that's one point. Technology does play an important role, but it cannot override the nature of and the way goods are handled when it comes to for perishables. So seasonality still dictates how perishables moves, where they come from, how much volume there is, and how fast they need to go, and how every commodity is handled in a different way and needs specific expertise and dedication in handling. So while the technology does give us the visibility and the control, but it does not replace the fundamentals of handling perishables. We cannot, of course, ignore the geopolitics. We have an ongoing crisis in Yemen with, for example, the impacting sea freight shipments in the Red Sea. So that has driven a supply chain domino effect, I would say, call it. So some cargo has been shifted to air freight, i.e. taking air capacity from the normal air freight world. And then you had the recent situations on top of that, where there was the Middle East had to temporarily suspend air flights.
Right.
So perishables move on commercial flights. So if they're impacted by sea to air conversions and then they're impacted by air cancellations, what do you do, right? So that's a back-to-back kind of a domino effect. And then, of course, just last week there was over 400 flights canceled across the transatlantic mainly, and that had to do with operational issues, staffing issues, and so many different effects. Aspects from North America in particular, but as well as in Europe, and so that has impacted us in the air freight world. So scalability makes it harder that way. In that case, the commercial, like I mentioned, commercial flights. So a lot of things we're seeing as well is that airlines are prioritizing the e-commerce business out of China because it's higher yield and higher value business versus the perishable countries and origins. So meaning it's taking their planes from rotations out of where the perishable countries are and putting them into, example, China, to pick up the e-commerce business. And so that impacts the exports out of flowers out of Kenya or whatever country it may be. Peru as well had the same thing recently, so it impacted their blueberry seasons. And of course, all of this is layered on top of the already fragmented air freight landscape, which I mentioned earlier. When it comes to perishables, I think also for pharma, of course, what's extremely important is the tight planning, the real-time visibility, the strong partnerships. So Kuehne+Nagel has dedicated perishable focused staff, air freight and sea freight, all over the world. I mean, where the producers are, where the growers are, where the farms are, the slaughterhouses, we've got people there. That's all they do. And so locally, we are strong and close to those partners, but also a destination where the buyers are and the retailers, and et cetera. And so it's all about communication. It's all about relationships. It's all about knowledge sharing, and that's a big part of the business. In the end, it's all about being operationally smart and making it commercially realistic. So you can have technology and infrastructure and investments, but then it may not make sense to ship tomatoes or blueberries. It's too expensive. So that's where the line comes in. And of course, you have to be ready for disruptions, as we've seen so many. We had COVID a few years ago, and that, of course, killed a lot of the air freight capacity. So what do? People still need to eat. So technology does help, to conclude, but it cannot replace the fundamental nature of how things are being handled. It helps get things closer, but not fully replace at the moment.
Absolutely, and I think those are really great insights, Issa. And if you would have asked me to give one-liner statement to this great insight of yours, I would just say that I believe when scalable skies meet smart grounds, there becomes a great synergy for this kind of a business. Obviously, technology cannot fully replace what is the whole process. And speaking of collaboration, Joe, how do you see strategic partnerships between manufacturers, logistics providers, and tech companies, who are important stakeholders of the business, evolving to support the rapid scaling of cold chain infrastructure? Are there any collaboration models you believe are particularly currently effective in the MENA region?
It is so obvious that the rapid scaling of the cold chain infrastructure will definitely call for a multi-dimensional, multifaceted approach of the process. And that being so, it is a must. It will be an obligation to go into strategic partnership or alliances, i.e., asking every partner in the aggregate to come together on the table. I mean, one can invest in the end-to-end process, but what is the point Here you need to call for the expertise, for the core. So our suggestion to the partners is on the platform is to call expertise in each step of the process. What do we have in the aggregate? We have the retail before the consumers. Then we have the data providers, data analysis. You have the technology to provide the data. Then you have the logistics partners, including transportation and the warehousing. Transportation being air freight or being a sea freight. This is logistic partner. They are experts in this. You have the manufacturer themselves. They have to focus also on the core business. So what we call for is to ask them, either through strategic partnership or strong alliances or outsourcing. I mean, at the end of the day, we need to move fast today. We need to make the best use of what is available in order to secure the delivery of the product and the consumer, I mean, in the best condition. Now, there are examples. Today we speak about global manufacturing, global supplies, global logistics, etc., etc. If we come to the level of where we live in the GCC, we speak about GCC distribution, we speak about MENA distribution, and these cannot be done alone. You have the big example is Almarai. Almarai operating from where they distribute in the entire GCC. And you cannot imagine the logistics data house that they have. So what we see is a truck with a name on the road, but the back house is tremendously developed, and it's an aggregate of different partners working together under one roof. Under one roof. And it's the only way to guarantee success by using the best expertise available on the place. That is our suggestion to all the partners in the aggregate of the end-to-end integrated refrigerated supply chain.
Right. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Joe. And I completely believe that collaboration really multiplies capacity when it comes to such kind of a business. Finally, let's see how 3PLs stitch all of this together. Dennis, looking ahead, how do you see the role of 3PL providers evolving? What innovations or partnerships are most effective in bridging the gap between fulfillment centers and end consumers? Is there a full circle perspective?
Yeah, I think if you look at what we've seen so far, the large traditional logistic service providers tend to focus on the first and middle mile because there is where they could fully leverage, let's say, their skill, their infrastructure, their global reach. But if you look at delivering to the end consumer in an e-commerce or a quick commerce environment, it's all about the last mile. So you've seen, I guess, in recent years, a lot of the smaller tech-driven service providers rise to step in and really get a niche market for themselves. And they have a dedicated focus on speed, on flexibility, on the end consumer experience. And then in many markets, you'll have the aggregators, like somebody said already, like Amazon, Noon, Karim, setting really the standards. So that's also pushing the traditional service providers to evolve and look at their last mile strategy. Well, you see some are getting last mile capabilities in-house. I think what you more see and will see more and more in the future is that they will build strategic partnerships. So you'll have these local niche players that build their capacity, that build their solutions, and then for the large 3PLs, it would be really a tech solution, being able to plug in for different routes, different destinations, different product, the niche player they want. So that's really where I think that the traditional logistic service providers in the last mile wouldn't necessarily be the executors anymore. They would be the orchestrators, right? And then it's about, I guess, to summarize, it's about a tech solution where they can plug in the best available solution that there is on the market.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing that, Dennis. And you indeed gave us a full circle perspective. That rounds out a fascinating two-lap tour of the cold chain marathon that we've begin with today. I would now invite the panelists to share a very short experience of the webinar today and their thoughts on the second World Cold Chain Expo. And what do you think? Where is the future of the cold chain industry leading? Let's start with you, Huma.
Yes, Tanya, it was a great experience, and I'm really excited about the World Cold Chain Expo because it's a unique opportunity to see the latest technology in cold chain logistics. It's very similar like what we do, what we work in pharma and temperature sensitive cargo. And also I'm looking forward to learning from industry leaders and exploring new solution that can help us to improve our service or to validate something more in pharma.
Absolutely. Joe, can we have you next?
It will be nothing based on a live show, live experience, and definitely that will be the place to for awareness of the latest technologies and latest movement, latest development in the place. So yes, it's a great opportunity platform.
And what are your thoughts on today's discussion, Joe? I really wanted to know it from you.
I have noticed that we have great supply chain gurus around the table or behind the microphone today, and the experience that Issa was speaking about, or Huma from the logistic and practical handling, and Dennis too. Definitely, this is a great materials that you have to sell out about the project, which we can input into the Food and Beverage Association.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
great to listen to, Joe. And Dennis, if you have any words to give us.
Yeah, no, I think this is a wonderful platform, at least to get connected and to know what's out there and to build a bit of a network. Of course, the timing and the specifics hampers you for sharing a lot of information. But I think it's a great opportunity to network already in advance of the expo that's coming, and hopefully being able to connect in person, because I think it's all about the network and the collaborations, as we said.
Absolutely. Issa, let's end that note with you. What are your thoughts on the webinar? Are you interested in exploring more about the Second World Cold Chain Expo?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we, and myself as well included, go to all these food shows all over the world. And it's always about the food and the product itself, not really much about the infrastructure. And that even though the providers are there, this is fully dedicated to that. So that's definitely interesting to see. You're also seeing, obviously, the governments playing a big role now with investments in logistics hubs and food security and things like, diversifying their imports and all these things. So curious to see this. I have not been to the first one, so this is the second one now coming up, and I look forward to networking with everyone here there and meeting you in person.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Issa. So today we learned that temperature integrity is now synonymous with brand integrity, and that real-time data, collaborative ecosystems, and whole network design together deliver on the promise of instant safe deliveries, be it in the industry of perishables, FMCG, or pharma. And to all of our audience, if you enjoyed this preview, imagine the depth, demos, and deal making that we are going to bring at the second World Cold Chain Expo, awaiting you live at Festival Arena, Dubai on the 10th and 11th of September. We would definitely want you to secure your passes, your spaces, and be a part of this show, which is going to be even better from the first edition. Thank you so much, all the panelists. It was my deep pleasure to have you on the discussion today, and we gained some really good insights from different perspectives that you all had to share from your backgrounds. So, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, see you everybody
Bye.
in Dubai. And to figuratively speak, we are actually nearing the future of cold chain. That is really chilling. So thank you so much. And I really had a good time. I hope you had too.
Yeah.